Welcome back to a special episode of the Artificial Fluency Podcast. I'm Emma, and today we will talk about something different. If you're looking to improve your English listening and writing skills, you're in the right place. Today's episode is all about helping you get better at listening by hearing real-life stories and examples. As you listen, try to focus on the details. This will not only help with your listening, but also give you new ideas to write about in English. And remember, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to press the like button. Let's start with a couple of questions. Have you ever faced a challenge in your life that changed your perspective? Or maybe you've learned something new from a simple conversation. These are the types of experiences that we'll explore today. I want to share a story about a time I was really challenged at work. I had to prepare for a presentation in front of a large group of people. I remember feeling nervous, but I knew I had to push through. I practiced for weeks, but something happened on the day of the presentation that I didn't expect. The projector wasn't working, and I had to do everything without slides. I had no choice but to rely on my speaking skills and my ability to connect with the audience. And guess what? It turned out to be one of my best presentations. This story is a good example of how challenges can help you grow. It's also a reminder that when something doesn't go as planned, you can still succeed if you adapt quickly. Speaking of challenges, let's talk about Sarah. Sarah is a friend of mine who recently moved to a new country. She didn't know anyone there, and she didn't speak the language very well. But instead of staying in her comfort zone, she decided to step out and learn. She started practicing with her neighbors, and after just a few months, she became really good at speaking English. She told me that what helped her the most was simply talking to people, even if she made mistakes. The key was not being afraid of speaking. This is a perfect example of how you can improve your English. If you're not speaking often enough, try to have conversations with people around you. Don't worry if you make mistakes. What's important is that you keep practicing. Now, I want to ask you another question. Have you ever learned something new just by talking to someone else? You don't always need a classroom to improve. Sometimes real-life conversations are the best way to learn. For instance, a few weeks ago, I met a man named John at a cafe. He was telling me how he improved his English by reading books and listening to podcasts. He said he would listen to an episode, then write a summary of what he heard. This helped him improve both his listening and writing skills. What a great tip, right? So, as you're listening to this episode, try to focus on the stories and details. Afterward, you can practice your writing by summarizing what you've learned. It's a simple way to improve both skills at the same time. Let's take a moment to think about the story of Jack. Jack had always been shy when it came to speaking English, especially in front of strangers. One day, his wife suggested he join a local group where people gather to practice languages. At first, Jack was nervous, but over time he became more comfortable. He started speaking with others regularly, and before he knew it, he was speaking English much more confidently. This just shows that the more you practice, the better you get. Listening to these kinds of stories can inspire you to keep going in your own English learning journey. The most important thing is to keep practicing every day. Let me tell you another story. This one is about Amina. Amina works at a small bakery in her town. When she first started, her English was very basic. She could only greet customers and say simple phrases like, "How can I help you?" or "Thank you." But every day she listened carefully to how people spoke. She started repeating the sentences she heard, and slowly she began to speak more confidently. One day, a tourist came into the bakery and asked her for directions to the nearest pharmacy. Amina was nervous, but she remembered the phrases she had learned and gave clear directions. The tourist smiled and thanked her. That moment gave Amina a lot of confidence. She told me later that it felt amazing to help someone using English. Now think about that. Amina didn't attend expensive classes. She just paid attention to real conversations. You can do the same. Listen to how people speak, repeat those phrases, and use them when you talk. Let's talk about something else that's very common: shopping at a market. Imagine you are in a market in another country, and you need to buy some vegetables. You might not know all the words, but you can still ask simple questions like, "How much is this?" Or, "Can I have 1 kilo, please?" These small sentences are very useful, and the more you use them, the more comfortable you become. I remember when I visited a small town for the first time. I didn't speak their local language, so I used English. At the vegetable stall, I said, "I would like to buy 2 tomatoes and 1 cucumber, please." The seller smiled and helped me. He even repeated the names of the vegetables to help me remember. That day, I learned new words and had a real conversation. Here's a tip. After listening to a story like this, take 5 minutes to write down what you heard. You don't need perfect grammar. Just write what you understood. It's a great way to train both your listening and writing skills. Let me share a story about Ibrahim, a man who drives a taxi. He wanted to improve his English so he could talk with passengers from other countries. Every day he would listen to English podcasts during his break time. He wrote down new words and practiced saying them out loud. One day, a customer from Canada got into his taxi and asked him about the city. Ibrahim replied in English and even gave some interesting facts. The customer was surprised and said, "Your English is really good." That small compliment made Ibrahim feel proud and motivated him to keep learning. You see, these small daily actions like listening to podcasts, talking with customers, and writing down new words can make a big difference. Let's imagine a woman named Layla. She works in a hospital as a nurse. She often speaks with patients and doctors. Some patients speak English, and Layla always tries to help them. When she doesn't know a word, she writes it down and checks it later. She also keeps a small notebook with useful sentences. For example, "Do you feel pain?" or "Please take this medicine twice a day." With time, her English improved a lot because she learned through real situations. You don't have to be in a hospital or a taxi to learn this way. Even if you're at home, you can listen, repeat, and write. Here's something you can try. After this episode, think about a story from your life. Try to write it in English. It can be something simple, like what you did yesterday or a time you helped someone. When you write your story, read it out loud. This helps you hear your own English and get better. Let's talk about Omar, a farmer who lives in a small village. He started learning English because he wanted to talk to visitors who came to see his farm. Every morning, after feeding the animals, he would listen to an English story. He repeated the sentences out loud while walking through the fields. Slowly, he learned to describe his daily work in English. One day, a visitor asked him about the crops, and Omar answered clearly, explaining when he planted them and how he cared for them. This is a great example of how learning can happen anywhere, not just in a classroom. Now I want to ask you, can you describe your daily routine in English? Try saying it out loud or writing it down. Start with simple sentences like, "I wake up at 6," or "I eat breakfast with my family." Keep building your sentences. The more you do this, the stronger your English will become. Let's continue with more stories and learning from everyday life. Today, I want to tell you about Daniel. Daniel works in a grocery store in a small town. He always wanted to speak English better because many tourists visit his town during the summer. At first, he was shy. When someone asked him something in English, he would smile but say only a few words. But Daniel didn't give up. Every night after work, he listened to short English stories on his phone. He would pause the audio, repeat the sentences, and write them in a notebook. One day, an older couple from the United Kingdom came into his store. They were looking for bottled water, but they couldn't find it. Daniel saw them looking around and asked, "Can I help you?" They smiled and said, "Yes, we're looking for water." Daniel said, "It's in aisle 3, near the snacks." The couple thanked him and said his English was very clear. Daniel felt proud. That small conversation gave him a big boost of confidence. Later, he told me that the secret to his progress was simple: practice every single day. He didn't wait for a perfect time or special teacher. He used what he had: his phone, a notebook, and real conversations with people. That's something we all can do. Now let's talk about Emma. She works as a receptionist in a small office. She answers phone calls, helps visitors, and organizes appointments. One day, a man came in who only spoke English. Emma felt nervous, but she remembered what she had been practicing. She said, "Hello, how can I help you?" The man needed help filling out a form. Emma took her time and explained it slowly. She used short and clear sentences like, "Please write your name here and sign at the bottom." The man completed the form and said, "Thank you so much, your English is very good." Emma smiled. After he left, she wrote down the words she used and added them to her list of useful phrases. She told me she always does this after speaking. In English, she writes new words and practices them later. This habit helped her improve quickly. Think about this. How often do you write down new words or phrases after listening to English or speaking with someone? If you don't do this yet, it's a very useful habit to start. Even writing 1 or 2 sentences each day can help a lot. Let me share another story. This one is about Thomas, a delivery driver. He spends most of his day driving, but he wanted to improve his English to get a better job. He couldn't go to a language school because of his work schedule. So he turned his car into a classroom. Every day he listened to English podcasts during his deliveries. He would repeat the phrases out loud while driving. If he didn't understand a sentence, he would pause, go back, and listen again. He also kept a voice recorder on his phone. After each delivery, he would say a sentence or 2 in English about his day. Things like, "I delivered 5 packages today," or "The weather is sunny." At night, he would listen to his recordings and correct his mistakes. After a few months, Thomas could talk about many topics in English. He even gave a short introduction about himself at a community event. Everyone was surprised by how well he spoke. Thomas told me that practicing in his own way was the best decision he ever made. He didn't wait for perfect conditions. He used his time and his tools wisely. You can do this too. Maybe you take the bus, go for walks, or have free time at lunch. Use that time to listen, repeat, and practice. Now let's meet Mary, a stay-at-home mother with 3 young children. She always wanted to learn English but thought she was too busy. One day, she heard about listening to English stories while doing house chores. She started playing English podcasts while cooking, cleaning, or folding laundry. She also asked her husband to speak simple English with her at dinner. In the beginning, it was difficult, but she kept going. One evening, her son had to speak to his teacher in English, and Mary helped him. She said simple phrases like, "Please tell your teacher I will come tomorrow." Her son repeated the sentence, and the teacher understood everything. That moment made Mary feel so proud. She realized she was learning, even without books or classes. She just had to keep listening and speaking a little every day. You see, these stories are not about people with special talent. They are about regular people, just like you, who used simple methods and daily practice to improve. Here's another example. James is a security guard at a hotel. He often meets guests from other countries. At first, he only said things like, "Welcome," or "This way, please." But one day, a family arrived and they needed help checking in. James explained the steps in English. He said, "Please go to the front desk. You need your ID and booking number." The family thanked him, and the manager who saw everything gave James a compliment. "You handled that very well." James was happy, but he wanted to do more. So, he started watching English lessons online during his breaks. He learned how to give directions, how to answer common questions, and how to be polite in English. He practiced with other staff members at the hotel. Now, James is known as the best communicator in the hotel team. He even helps train new staff members. The best part is, James never thought he was good at languages, but his story proves that with daily effort, you can learn and even teach others. Now let's stop and reflect. What do all these people have in common? They listened carefully. They practiced daily. They wrote things down. They spoke even when they were nervous. You can do all of these things too. It doesn't matter where you live or what your job is. English learning can happen at home, at work, or while walking to the store. So now I ask you, what is one small thing you can do today to practice your English? Can you describe your job in English? Can you write a short paragraph about your day? Can you ask someone a simple question in English? Don't worry about being perfect. Just keep going. Keep listening, keep writing, and keep speaking. You are part of this journey with millions of learners around the world, and we're here together every day to grow and learn. Let me share another story with you. This one is about Mark. Mark is a mechanic who works at a small car repair shop. His English skills weren't great when he first started working in this shop. He could understand basic instructions like, "Please check the engine" or "change the oil." But when it came to talking to customers, he was often unsure. One day, a customer came in to ask about a strange noise in their car. Mark wasn't sure how to explain what was wrong, so he showed the customer the engine and pointed to the part he thought was causing the noise. But the customer didn't understand, and this made Mark feel embarrassed. After the conversation ended, Mark thought about how he could improve. He realized that he needed to learn the names of car parts in English and how to describe issues more clearly. So, Mark decided to take action. Every night after work, he would look up the names of car parts and read their English descriptions. He also started watching videos on YouTube where mechanics spoke in English. He would repeat the words out loud and write down new terms in a notebook. Slowly, he began to feel more comfortable. The next week, another customer came in with a similar issue. Mark confidently explained, "The issue is with the alternator. It's making a strange noise and we need to replace it." The customer smiled and said, "Thank you, Mark. That was very clear." Mark felt proud of himself, and he realized that the key to improving his English was practice, both listening and speaking. You see, Mark's story teaches us something important. We don't have to wait for the perfect time or perfect situation to practice English. We can use real-life examples even at work to build our skills. Just like Mark, you can start small and improve step by step. Let's take another example. This one is about Lucy, a teacher who works at a primary school. Lucy always wanted to improve her English so she could teach her students better. She was already good at speaking English, but she wanted to sound more confident and precise in her explanations. One day during a lesson, Lucy noticed that some of her students didn't understand the words she was using, especially when describing difficult concepts. That evening, she thought about what she could do to improve her teaching language. Lucy decided to listen to podcasts about teaching and education in English. She also started reading books that explained teaching methods in English. But what really helped was when she started to record herself reading from these books. She would listen to the recordings, paying attention. One day she was giving a lesson on animals, and she used words like habitat, endangered, and species. She noticed her students were following along more easily. After the class, one student said, "I like the way you explain things. It's easy to understand." Lucy felt so happy because she knew that her English had improved through daily practice. From Lucy's story, we can learn that improving English isn't always about being perfect. It's about putting in the effort to listen, read, and practice every day. And it's also about being patient with yourself. Lucy didn't become fluent overnight. She used simple strategies like listening to podcasts, reading books, and recording herself. These small actions made a big difference. Let's think about a story from Andrew, a tour guide in a famous city. Andrew speaks to many tourists every day. At first, he would give simple tours in English, but after a while, he realized that he could offer more details. He wanted to be able to tell interesting stories about the places he showed visitors, but his vocabulary was limited. Andrew decided to do something to improve. He started by listening to podcasts about the city's history and culture. He wrote down new words like architecture, heritage, and landmarks. But what really helped was when he started practicing his stories out loud. He would tell the stories in English, even when no one was around. He'd stand in front of a mirror, practicing how he would describe a historical building or a famous statue. After a few weeks, Andrew noticed a big change. When he gave tours, he was able to tell visitors much more detailed stories in English. They were impressed by how much he knew and how confidently he spoke. One tourist said, "Andrew, you're not just a guide, you're a storyteller." Andrew felt great because he knew that his effort had paid off. Andrew's story teaches us something valuable too. Sometimes learning a language means finding the specific words you need for your situation. If you work in tourism, you might learn words related to history and culture. If you're a mechanic like Mark, you might learn words related to car parts and repairs. English can be useful in many different contexts, and the more you focus on the language you'll actually use, the more confident you'll become. Speaking of confidence, let me tell you about Sophie. Sophie is a secretary who works in a busy office. She has to communicate with many people every day, both on the phone and in person. However, her biggest challenge was speaking on the phone in English. At first, she found it difficult because she couldn't see the person's facial expressions, which made it harder for her to understand. To improve, Sophie started listening to English phone conversations. She would pause the recordings after each sentence and try to repeat what she heard. She paid attention to how the speakers asked questions and responded in different situations. After a while, Sophie felt more comfortable on the phone. She practiced answering calls like this. "Good morning, this is Sophie. How can I help you?" Or, "I'll transfer you to the right department." Sophie also practiced leaving messages. One day, a caller left a message, and Sophie responded with confidence, saying, "I received your message and will pass it on to the manager." The caller thanked her, and Sophie felt proud. She realized that even though she was nervous at first, the key to success was repetition and practice. Sophie's story reminds us that there's no need to be afraid of making mistakes. Every time you practice, whether it's on the phone, in person, or in writing, you get better. Even if you don't understand everything right away, keep practicing, and over time, your confidence will grow. Now let me tell you about David, a chef at a restaurant. David had been cooking for years, but his English wasn't great. When foreign customers came to the restaurant, he felt nervous. He didn't know how to describe the dishes in English, and this made him uncomfortable. David decided to improve his English by learning the names of ingredients and cooking terms. He listened to cooking shows in English and read recipes online. He even started writing down the names of different foods and cooking techniques in a notebook. After some time, he felt more confident. One day, a customer asked about the ingredients in a dish, and David was able to explain clearly, "This dish has chicken, potatoes, and a special garlic sauce." The customer smiled and said, "This is exactly what I wanted to know." David's story shows that you don't need to be a perfect speaker to improve your English. All you need is a little bit of effort every day. Start with the words you need the most and build from there. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Think about your own life. Is there something you do every day where you could practice your English? Maybe you like to cook, or you have a hobby like photography, sports, or reading. Whatever it is, there are ways to practice English in your everyday activities. It's all about taking small steps each day. Can you think of a topic you'd like to talk about in English? Maybe something about your job, your hobbies, or a special experience? Try writing down a few sentences or even speaking about it. Keep practicing and you'll improve, just like Mark, Emma, Andrew, Sophie, and David. Let me share another story, this time about James. James is an engineer who works at a construction company. He often has to give presentations to clients, explaining the technical details of building projects. When James first started doing presentations in English, he found it challenging. The technical terms he needed to use were complicated, and he wasn't always sure how to explain them clearly. Sometimes he felt nervous when presenting, afraid he might say something wrong or that his clients wouldn't understand him. One day, after a particularly difficult meeting, James decided that he had to make improvements. He realized that he needed to focus on two things: improving his technical vocabulary and becoming more confident in his speaking. James decided to start listening to podcasts about engineering in English. He found podcasts where experts in construction explained different concepts and terminology. He also started reading books and articles in English about construction techniques. James made a habit of learning a few new terms every day. At first, it was slow. Some of the words were really complicated, but he didn't give up. He also practiced explaining the concepts aloud, using his own words. He would stand in front of a mirror or talk to his colleagues, explaining the technical details of his projects in English. This helped him build confidence and get used to saying the words out loud. A few weeks later, James had another presentation to give. This time, he felt much more prepared. He used the technical terms confidently, and he could explain the details of the project clearly to the clients. One of the clients said, "James, your presentation was really informative. I could follow everything you said, and I feel more confident about this project now." James was so proud. He knew that his hard work was paying off, and he felt more confident speaking in English. James's story teaches us something very important: learning. A language isn't just about memorizing vocabulary or grammar. It's about finding ways to use that language in real-life situations. James didn't just learn words in isolation. He learned them by listening, reading, and speaking in the context of his work. He practiced daily, and over time, his English improved. Now let me tell you about Claire, a nurse who works in a busy hospital. Claire had always been able to communicate well with her patients, but she realized that there were times when she had to use medical terms in English, and she wasn't always sure how to explain them. For example, she found it hard to explain complex procedures or symptoms to patients who didn't speak her language well. Claire decided to improve her medical English by focusing on the vocabulary that would be most useful to her. She started by watching medical videos in English, paying close attention to the way doctors and nurses explained procedures. She also looked up medical terms and learned the English words for different symptoms, treatments, and conditions. Claire made a notebook where she wrote down the medical terms and their meanings. Then she would practice explaining them out loud, just like she would to a patient. One day, a patient came in with a complex condition. Claire had to explain the treatment plan in simple terms, and she was able to do so confidently. She told the patient, "We'll need to give you a series of tests to better understand your condition. The tests will help us choose the best treatment for you." The patient understood everything and thanked her. Claire felt a sense of relief and pride, knowing that she had done a good job of communicating. Claire's experience shows us that language learning is a gradual process. You don't need to understand everything right away. Just like Claire, you can break down your learning into manageable steps, focusing on the areas that are most important for you. Whether you're a nurse, teacher, engineer, or in any other profession, learning the specific vocabulary you need can make a big difference in your confidence and ability to communicate effectively. Now let's talk about Tom, a software developer who works in a large tech company. Tom had no trouble writing code in English, but when it came to talking to his colleagues in meetings, he felt unsure. He knew the technical language, but he found it hard to express himself clearly in English during team discussions. Tom decided to tackle this problem by focusing on conversational English. He realized that while he was good at technical writing, he needed to work on his spoken English, especially when discussing projects with his team. Tom started by joining a weekly conversation group with other tech professionals who spoke English. In these meetings, they would discuss new technologies, programming languages, and upcoming projects in English. Tom made sure to listen carefully to how his colleagues explained technical concepts and try to use similar language when it was his turn to speak. Over time, Tom became more comfortable in meetings. He didn't feel nervous anymore when it was his turn to explain a project or ask a question. One day, during a meeting, he shared his idea for a new software feature, and his colleagues were impressed by how clearly he communicated his thoughts. They said, "Tom, your idea is really interesting. The way you explained it made a lot of sense." Tom felt great because he knew that his English had improved through practice and real conversations. Tom's story is a great reminder that improving English isn't just about learning vocabulary. It's also about practicing the language in the context you'll actually use it. If you're like Tom and you want to improve your conversational English, you can start by having conversations with others who speak the language. Whether it's at work, with friends, or even in a group, the more you practice speaking, the easier it will become. Next, I want to tell you about Sarah, a project manager who works in a fast-paced environment. Sarah had to communicate with international clients, and she often had to send emails or attend virtual meetings in English. She noticed that sometimes her emails weren't as clear as she wanted them to be, and this caused misunderstandings with her clients. She decided that she needed to improve her email writing skills and learn how to express her ideas more clearly in writing. Sarah started by reading well-written professional emails in English. She paid attention to the tone, the sentence structure, and how the writer organized their ideas. Sarah also found templates for different types of emails, like inquiry emails, follow-up emails, and thank you emails. She practiced writing her own emails using these templates as a guide. After she wrote each email, she would read it again to check for clarity and correctness. One day, Sarah had to send an important follow-up email to a client about a project delay. She wrote the email carefully, explaining the situation clearly and offering solutions. The client responded by saying, "Thank you for the clear explanation, Sarah. I appreciate your professionalism." Sarah was pleased because she knew that her effort to improve her email writing skills had paid off. Sarah's experience teaches us that improving English doesn't just happen in conversations, it can happen in writing too. By focusing on the specific skills you need, like writing clear emails, you can build your confidence and improve your communication. Whether you're writing an email at work or a letter to a friend, the more you practice writing, the better you'll get. Let's now talk about Peter, a business owner who runs a small retail shop. Peter had always been good at managing his shop, but when he started expanding his business and dealing with suppliers and customers from different countries, he found that his English skills weren't enough. He needed to be able to negotiate deals and explain his products in English. Peter decided to improve his business English by focusing on key phrases and vocabulary used in negotiations and customer service. He started by reading articles about business in English and watching videos on topics like how to negotiate and how to sell a product. He learned phrases like, "Can we discuss the terms of the deal?" and "I can offer you a discount if you purchase in bulk." One day, Peter had to negotiate with a supplier from another country. Using the English phrases he had learned, he was able to explain his needs clearly and come to an agreement that benefited both sides. After the meeting, Peter felt proud because he had successfully used English to make a business deal. Peter's story shows us that learning English for business purposes can be very rewarding. If you focus on the language that's specific to your field, whether it's retail, marketing, or any other industry, you can improve your ability to communicate effectively and achieve your goals. Through these stories, we can see that improving English is not about being perfect. It's about practice, persistence, and using the language in real-life situations. Whether you're like James, Claire, Tom, Sarah, or Peter, you can improve your English by focusing on the areas that matter most to you. And remember, the key is to practice every day. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep writing. Over time, you'll notice big improvements in your confidence and ability to communicate. Let me share another story, this time about Alex, a chef who works in a popular restaurant. Alex has been a chef for many years, and although he's an expert in cooking, he always struggled with the English used in his kitchen. When he started working in a restaurant where the team spoke English, he realized that he needed to improve his language skills to communicate better with his colleagues and customers. At first, Alex found it difficult to understand kitchen instructions, especially when they were fast-paced. Sometimes the sous chefs would shout out orders or explain recipes in English, and Alex didn't always catch everything. This made him feel frustrated, and sometimes it affected the quality of his work. One day, the head chef asked him to train a new team member, and Alex realized that he needed to be able to explain recipes and kitchen techniques clearly in English. This was a turning point for Alex. He decided to work on improving his kitchen English. Alex started listening to cooking shows and podcasts in English. He paid attention to the language used when chefs explained how to prepare dishes or explained cooking techniques. He also made it a point to learn the names of common kitchen tools and ingredients in English. Every evening after work, Alex would sit down with a notebook and write down new words or phrases he had heard during the day. He practiced pronouncing these words and used them when talking to his colleagues. One day, a customer came to the restaurant and asked for a special dish that wasn't on the menu. Alex was able to explain the dish and take the order confidently in English. The customer appreciated Alex's effort, saying, "It's not easy to find a restaurant where the staff can speak so clearly and confidently." Alex felt proud of how far he had come. From this experience, Alex learned that improving your language skills doesn't have to be difficult. It's about finding practical ways to practice. Alex improved his English by listening to relevant content, writing down new vocabulary, and using what he learned in his daily work. Just like Alex, you can improve your language skills by practicing the English that is most relevant to you, whether it's for your job or personal interests. Let me now tell you about Emily, an accountant who works for an international company. Emily had always been good at numbers, but when she started working in an English-speaking environment, she realized that understanding financial terms in English was more challenging than she expected. Her colleagues often used phrases like net profit, balance sheet, and cash flow, and Emily was unsure what these terms meant in English. Emily decided to take action. She knew that learning the language of finance would make her job easier and help her perform better at work. So, she started by reading articles, books, and financial reports in English. She also subscribed to a Audtui finance newsletter that provided articles in English. Emily took notes on new vocabulary and wrote down the meanings of financial terms that were unfamiliar to her. When she wasn't sure about a term, she would look it up online or ask her colleagues for clarification. To practice her listening skills, Emily started listening to podcasts about finance and accounting. The podcasts helped her get used to the speed of natural speech and the different accents of native English speakers. She also made sure to practice explaining financial concepts in English by summarizing what she learned in her own words. Emily even started using some of the terms she had learned when speaking with her colleagues. Over time, Emily noticed that she understood financial discussions much better, and she could confidently participate in meetings. One day, during a meeting with the finance team, Emily was able to explain a complex financial situation to her colleagues using the new vocabulary she had learned. They were impressed by her clarity and understanding of the subject. Emily felt great because she had worked hard to improve her financial English, and it had paid off. Emily's story highlights the importance of learning vocabulary that's specific to your profession or area of interest. If you work in finance, for example, it's important to focus on financial terms and phrases. By practicing daily and exposing yourself to relevant content, you can improve your language skills and build confidence in your professional setting. Now, let's talk about Michael, a teacher who works at an international school. Michael had always loved teaching, but when he started working with students from different countries, he realized that his English language skills were not as strong as he thought. Many of his students spoke English as a second language, and Michael wanted to make sure he communicated with them clearly. Michael decided to improve his language skills by focusing on the vocabulary and phrases that would help him in the classroom. He began by listening to educational podcasts and watching videos about teaching strategies in English. Michael also started reading books about teaching techniques in English, paying attention to how the authors explained educational concepts. One of the challenges Michael faced was giving instructions to his students in English. Sometimes the students didn't understand what he was asking them to do. To solve this, Michael started simplifying his instructions and using visuals to help explain his ideas. He also made sure to check if his students understood by asking them to repeat the instructions or explain them back to him. After a few months, Michael noticed that his students were responding better to his instructions. They were participating more in class, and they seemed to understand his lessons much more easily. One day, Michael's supervisor observed his class and said, "Your communication with the students has improved so much. It's clear that you've worked hard to improve your English." Michael's experience shows us that improving your English skills can make a big difference in your work life. By focusing on the language you need for your profession, like teaching English to students, you can improve your ability to communicate and help others understand you more easily. Next, let's hear about Lucy, a travel agent who specializes in arranging trips for customers who want to visit different countries. Lucy's job requires her to communicate with clients from around the world and help them plan their vacations. While she had no problem with basic conversation, she often found it difficult to explain complicated travel details, like itineraries or visa requirements. In English, Lucy decided to improve her English by learning the travel-related vocabulary she needed to do her job effectively. She started reading travel brochures, websites, and guidebooks in English to learn about different destinations. She also listened to podcasts and watched videos about travel and tourism to get used to the way travel agents communicate with their clients. Lucy also made a list of common travel-related phrases that she used in her job, such as flight booking, customized itinerary, and visa application. She practiced saying these phrases out loud and used them when talking to clients. One day, a client called her to ask about a vacation package to Europe. Lucy confidently explained the different options, including flight details, hotel bookings, and sightseeing tours. The client was impressed and said, "You made it so easy to understand everything. I'm really looking forward to this trip." Lucy's story shows us that learning a language for your profession requires a practical approach. By focusing on the words and phrases you use every day, you can improve your communication skills and provide better service to your clients or customers. Finally, let's talk about David, a marketing manager at an international company. David's job involves creating advertising campaigns and working with clients to promote products. He often has to present his ideas in English, which he found difficult at first. While David was good at writing marketing copy, he struggled to speak fluently during presentations. David decided to work on his spoken English by practicing his presentations out loud. He would rehearse his speeches in front of a mirror or record himself speaking and then listen to the recordings to identify areas for improvement. He also focused on using marketing-related vocabulary, like target audience, brand awareness, and consumer behavior. Over time, David's presentations became more confident and polished. During a major client meeting, David presented a new advertising strategy for a product launch. His client was impressed by how clearly he communicated the key points and how effectively he used marketing language to explain his ideas. The client said, "Your presentation was excellent, David. It's clear that you've put a lot of effort into this." David's story shows us how important it is to practice speaking in the context of your work. By focusing on the language you need for your presentations, meetings, or client interactions, you can improve your confidence and ability to communicate effectively. Through the stories of Alex, Emily, Michael, Lucy, and David, we can see how improving English is a gradual process. It takes practice, patience, and consistency. Whether you're learning English for work, personal reasons, or both, the key is to practice every day and focus on the areas that matter most to you. As you continue to improve, you'll find that English becomes a natural part of your life. Let's talk about Emma, a project manager who works for an international company. Emma's job requires her to lead teams and ensure that various projects are completed on time and within budget. One of the biggest challenges Emma faced when she started was managing communication with team members who came from different countries. Most of her team members spoke English as a second language, and she realized that to be an effective leader, she needed to improve her English to communicate instructions more clearly. At first, Emma found it challenging to explain complex ideas to her team members in English. Sometimes they would misunderstand her instructions or get confused during meetings. This led to delays in their work, which made Emma feel frustrated. She decided to take action and improve her English communication skills. Emma began by focusing on the vocabulary that was relevant to her job as a project manager. She learned the specific terms used in project management, such as deadline, scope, resources, and milestones. By focusing on the vocabulary she needed for her job, Emma was able to communicate more clearly during meetings. She also started to write down important words and phrases that came up during conversations with her team and tried to use them in her daily interactions. To practice speaking, Emma started recording herself, explaining different project management concepts in English. She listened to the recordings and tried to identify areas where she could improve her pronunciation or the way she structured her sentences. Over time, Emma became more confident in giving instructions and explaining complex ideas to her team. During the next team meeting, Emma gave a presentation on a new project and explained the timeline and resources needed. Her team understood everything clearly, and the project went smoothly. This experience taught Emma that improving your English for work doesn't mean learning every word in the language. It's about learning the key phrases and vocabulary that are relevant to your specific job and practicing them until they become second nature. By focusing on the language that's most important to you, you can communicate more effectively and confidently. Next, let's talk about Daniel, a lawyer who works in an international law firm. Daniel had been practicing law for many years, but when he started working in a firm that mostly used English for legal documents and court proceedings, he realized that his English skills needed improvement. In particular, he struggled with legal terms and the formal language used in contracts and court documents. Daniel decided to focus on legal English, a specialized area of the language. He started by reading legal documents in English, such as contracts, case studies, and court rulings. At first, the language was challenging because the sentences were long and the vocabulary was very specific. However, Daniel didn't give up. He made it a habit to look up the meanings of unfamiliar terms and write them down in a notebook. He also practiced using these terms when speaking with his colleagues to become more comfortable with them. To improve his understanding of legal English, Daniel attended webinars and seminars on legal topics that were conducted in English. These helped him get used to hearing legal terms in context and improve his listening comprehension. Daniel also practiced writing legal documents in English, such as letters and emails, and asked his colleagues for feedback. Over time, Daniel became much more confident in using legal English. During a meeting with a client, Daniel was able to explain a complex legal issue in simple English, making sure the client understood the situation clearly. The client appreciated Daniel's clear explanation and said, "You made everything so much easier to understand, Daniel. I feel more confident in this legal matter now." Daniel's story is a great example of how focusing on specialized English, such as legal English or any other professional area, can greatly improve your communication skills. By focusing on the vocabulary and language used in your field, you can become more confident in handling professional situations and build trust with clients or colleagues. Now, let's talk about Jack, an entrepreneur who started his own online business. Jack's business focuses on selling eco-friendly products, and he wants to expand his customer base to English-speaking countries. Jack's challenge was that although he knew how to run his business, he wasn't sure how to market his products effectively in English. He knew that to reach a wider audience, he needed to improve his ability to write compelling product descriptions, emails, and promotional content in English. Jack started by looking at product listings and advertisements from successful companies that used English. He paid attention to the words and phrases they used to describe products, focusing on language that highlighted the benefits of the products and appealed to customers. Jack also subscribed to marketing blogs and newsletters in English to learn more about digital marketing strategies. To improve his writing, Jack decided to practice by creating mock advertisements for his products. He wrote catchy headlines, persuasive descriptions, and calls to action. Jack also listened to podcasts and watched videos about marketing to get more ideas about how to effectively communicate with customers in English. After a few weeks, Jack felt more comfortable writing in English and was able to update the content on his website. When Jack launched a new product, he noticed that his product descriptions received positive feedback from his customers. They appreciated how clear and engaging the information was. Jack was excited to see that his hard work had paid off and his business started gaining more international customers. Jack's story shows how learning English for your business can help you reach a global audience. By learning how to effectively market your products or services in English, you can expand your business and attract customers from English-speaking countries. Let's now hear from Olivia, a nurse working in a hospital that treats international patients. Olivia has always been passionate about caring for others, but she noticed that communicating with patients who spoke limited English was a challenge. Sometimes patients couldn't explain their symptoms properly, and Olivia had trouble understanding their medical history. This made it difficult for her to provide the best care. Olivia decided to improve her medical English so that she could better understand her patients' needs and provide the best possible care. She started by learning the medical terms used to describe symptoms, diseases, and treatments. Olivia also took online courses and watched videos that focused on medical communication in English. These resources taught her how to ask patients clear and simple questions and how to explain medical procedures in a way that was easy for patients to understand. Over time, Olivia became much more confident in her ability to communicate with patients in English. One day, a patient came in who spoke very little English, and Olivia was able to ask the right questions and make the patient feel comfortable. She explained the treatment plan in simple English, and the patient was grateful for the clarity. Olivia's supervisor noticed how well she handled the situation and praised her for her improved communication skills. Olivia's story is a great reminder that improving your English skills can have a direct impact on your ability to help others. In the healthcare industry, for example, clear communication is crucial. By learning the specific vocabulary and phrases needed in your profession, you can provide better care and build stronger relationships with patients. Finally, let's talk about Peter, a software developer working for an international tech company. Peter had always been good at coding and building software, but when he started working with a global team, he realized that he needed to improve his English to collaborate more effectively. Although his colleagues spoke English, Peter found it hard to understand technical discussions and sometimes struggled to express his ideas in English. Peter decided to improve his English by focusing on the technical language used in the software industry. He started by reading programming blogs, forums, and documentation in English. He also watched tech tutorials and listened to podcasts where software developers discussed coding and new technologies. As Peter learned more about technical English, he felt more confident in joining discussions and contributing his ideas during meetings. One day, during a team meeting, Peter explained a coding problem to his colleagues using the new vocabulary he had learned. His explanation was clear and concise, and his colleagues were impressed. Peter's manager thanked him for his detailed explanation, saying, "You made it much easier for us to understand the issue and come up with a solution." Peter's story shows that learning English in a specific technical field can help you communicate more effectively and contribute to your team's success. By focusing on the language used in your industry, you can improve your understanding of technical discussions and collaborate more easily with colleagues around the world. Through the experiences of Emma, Daniel, Jack, Olivia, and Peter, we can see that improving your English skills can help in many different areas of life, whether it's for your job, studies, or personal goals. The key is to focus on the language that is most relevant to you and practice regularly. With time and effort, your English skills will improve, and you'll feel more confident in your ability to communicate with others. Let's continue exploring how improving your English skills can have a lasting and positive impact in a variety of real-life scenarios. These stories will give you even more examples of how mastering English can be useful, whether in your personal life, career, or even while traveling. Let's talk about David, a financial analyst who works for a global investment firm. David was always good with numbers, but when it came to presenting his analysis in English, he felt nervous. He had to communicate his findings to clients from various countries, and sometimes he struggled to explain complicated financial data in a way that was easy for them to understand. David realized that if he wanted to advance in his career, he needed to improve his ability to explain complex ideas in simple, clear English. So he decided to dedicate time to practicing his financial vocabulary. He focused on learning common terms used in finance, such as equity, assets, liabilities, dividends, and return on investment. He also began reading financial reports in English to get used to the language used in his industry. To practice speaking, David started recording himself explaining financial concepts. He would choose a topic, like the stock market or a specific investment strategy, and record a 2-minute explanation in English. He would listen to the recording and note areas where he could improve. Over time, David became more confident in his ability to explain his analysis clearly and concisely in English. One day, David had to present his quarterly report to a client who spoke English as a second language. David carefully prepared for the presentation by practicing his key points in English and reviewing the financial terms he had learned. During the meeting, David explained the financial situation in simple terms, using charts and graphs to make his points clearer. The client was impressed with how easy it was to follow the report and thanked David for his clear communication. David's experience shows how mastering English can help you in specialized fields like finance. By focusing on the language that's relevant to your profession and practicing regularly, you can improve your ability to communicate complex ideas and build stronger professional relationships. Now let's shift gears and talk about Sarah, an interior designer. Sarah's work involves collaborating with clients to create beautiful, functional spaces in their homes or businesses. She often works with clients from different parts of the world and needs to communicate her design ideas clearly. The challenge for Sarah was that she wasn't always comfortable explaining design concepts in English, which made it difficult for her clients to understand her ideas. Sarah realized that to provide the best service to her clients, she needed to be able to explain her designs in a way that was both professional and easy to understand. She began by learning design-related vocabulary in English. She focused on words and phrases used in the interior design industry, such as open concept, natural light, color palette, focal point, and space planning. Sarah also started practicing her speaking skills by explaining her design concepts to her colleagues in English. She would practice describing her ideas for a new room layout or color scheme. She used simple language and visual aids like mood, boards, and sketches to help make her ideas clearer. By doing this, Sarah became more confident in her ability to express herself and explain her designs to clients. One day, Sarah had a meeting with a client from the United States who was interested in redesigning their living room. Sarah was nervous, but she felt prepared because she had been practicing her English. During the meeting, Sarah explained the design process step by step and showed the client examples of furniture, color choices, and layout options. The client appreciated Sarah's clear explanations and how well she communicated her ideas. By the end of the meeting, the client was excited to move forward with the project. Sarah's story highlights how learning the specific vocabulary of your profession can help you communicate your ideas more effectively. Whether you're an interior designer, a doctor, a teacher, or any other professional, improving your English in a way that's relevant to your field will make you more effective and confident in your job. Let's now hear from Mark, a chef who works in a busy restaurant kitchen. Mark has always been passionate about cooking, but when he started working in a restaurant that caters to international tourists, he realized that his English skills needed to improve. He needed to communicate clearly with customers, explain menu items, and understand orders from people who spoke English as a second language. At first, Mark felt frustrated because he couldn't always understand what customers wanted. Sometimes, they would ask for specific dishes or ingredients, and Mark wasn't sure if he understood correctly. He also struggled with the English names for certain cooking techniques and ingredients, which made it hard for him to follow recipes written in English. Mark decided to improve his English by focusing on food-related vocabulary and expressions. He learned the names of different ingredients, cooking methods, and kitchen equipment in English. He also practiced listening to cooking shows and podcasts in English to get used to the language used in the culinary world. To improve his speaking skills, Mark started practicing by explaining recipes in English. He would record himself describing the steps of a recipe and listen to the recording to see where he could improve. He also practiced speaking with his coworkers, asking them questions about the ingredients or techniques they were using. One day, Mark had a customer who ordered a dish that wasn't on the menu. The customer described the dish in English, and Mark was able to understand the request clearly because he had practiced the specific vocabulary. He quickly prepared the dish and received compliments from the customer for its taste and presentation. Mark's confidence in his English skills grew, and he was able to communicate with customers more easily. Mark's story is a great example of how improving your English can help you in a fast-paced job like being a chef. By learning the language that's specific to your job, you can improve your communication with both customers and colleagues, making your work more efficient and enjoyable. Let's now talk about Rachel, a travel agent who helps people plan their vacations. Rachel works with clients from all over the world and often has to explain travel options, book flights and hotels, and provide detailed itineraries in English. While she was comfortable booking travel for English-speaking clients, she struggled with clients who spoke English as a second language. Sometimes they had trouble understanding her explanations or had difficulty expressing what they wanted. Rachel realized that to improve her service, she needed to focus on the language used in the travel industry. She began by learning the key phrases and terms used in travel planning, such as itinerary, destination, travel insurance, passport control, and customs regulations. She also practiced speaking with clients using simple and clear language, avoiding complex vocabulary or phrases that might confuse them. Rachel started to create sample itineraries in English to practice explaining the travel process step by step. She also recorded herself giving travel advice and listening to the recordings to check for any areas where she could improve her clarity. Over time, Rachel became much more confident in communicating with her clients and was able to provide better travel advice and assistance. One day, a client came in with a list of destinations they were interested in visiting, but they weren't sure where to go. Rachel listened carefully and explained the advantages of each location in simple terms. By the end of the meeting, the client decided on a destination, and Rachel helped them book everything from flights to accommodation. The client thanked Rachel for making the process easy to understand and for giving such helpful advice. Rachel's story demonstrates how improving your English in a specific industry, like travel, can help you provide better service to your clients. Whether you're a travel agent, a lawyer, a teacher, or a chef, learning the vocabulary and expressions related to your job can help you communicate more effectively and provide better experiences for those you work with. Lastly, let's talk about John, a professional photographer who works with clients on weddings, portraits, and commercial shoots. John had always been successful in his business, but when he started working with international clients, he realized that his English skills were limiting his ability to understand their needs. Clients would often ask for specific types of photos, but John found it hard to express his ideas or ask for clarifications when he wasn't sure about what they wanted. John decided to focus on improving his English to communicate better with clients and understand their expectations. He started by learning photography-related vocabulary, including terms like composition, lighting, portrait shots, angle, and framing. He also practiced explaining his photography process in English so that clients could understand what to expect during a shoot. After practicing for a few weeks, John felt more comfortable discussing his work in English. One day, a couple came to him for a wedding shoot. They had specific ideas about the type of photos they wanted, but they weren't sure how to describe them in English. John was able to ask the right questions and guide them through the process. By the end of the session, the couple was thrilled with the photos, and they praised John for his clear communication and ability to understand exactly what they wanted. John's experience shows how improving your English can help you in creative industries like photography. By learning the language specific to your field, you can communicate better with clients and ensure that their needs are met, leading to better outcomes and stronger client relationships. Through the stories of David, Sarah, Mark, Rachel, and John, we can see that improving your English isn't just about learning grammar or vocabulary. It's about learning the language that's specific to your profession or interests. Whether you're working in finance, design, healthcare, travel, or any other field, mastering English in the context of your work can lead to more successful and fulfilling career experiences. Let's continue exploring more real-world examples of how improving your English can help in various aspects of life and work. These stories can provide even further insight into the everyday applications of learning English, especially in professional contexts where clear communication is key to success. Let's start with Emma, a marketing manager who works for an international company. Emma's job requires her to communicate with colleagues from different parts of the world, coordinate marketing campaigns, and present reports to senior management. At first, she struggled with explaining her ideas clearly in English, especially when discussing complicated marketing strategies with people from diverse cultural backgrounds. She knew that in order to make her mark in the company and contribute meaningfully to the team, she needed to enhance her English communication skills. Emma decided to focus on expanding her vocabulary in marketing. She learned words and phrases like brand awareness, customer engagement, target audience, market segmentation, and conversion rates. She also started reading marketing articles and blogs in English to stay updated on the latest trends and language used in the industry. As she became more familiar with the jargon, Emma felt more confident discussing strategies in meetings and explaining her ideas in presentations. To practice her speaking skills, Emma would record herself explaining marketing campaigns she was working on. She would listen to the recordings and analyze where she could improve, such as using clearer explanations or simplifying complicated terms for people who might not be familiar with technical marketing language. Over time, Emma became much more comfortable with her English skills and her confidence grew. She was able to present marketing reports to senior managers, answering. One day, Emma had to present a new campaign to a potential client. The client was from a country where English was not the first language, and Emma knew the importance of keeping her language simple and straightforward. She prepared her presentation carefully, practiced her speech, and used visual aids to support her points. During the presentation, the client asked several questions about the campaign's impact, and Emma was able to explain the key points in detail, making sure they understood the potential benefits of the strategy. The client was impressed by her communication skills and signed on to work with Emma's company. Emma's story highlights how mastering English in a professional context, such as marketing, can help you communicate more effectively, build stronger relationships with clients, and showcase your skills in a clear and professional manner. Now let's move on to Michael, a software developer who works with an international team. Michael's role requires him to write code, troubleshoot software issues, and collaborate with developers and clients from different countries. While he was good at coding, he realized that he needed to improve his written and spoken English to communicate more effectively with his team, especially when working on complex projects. Michael started by focusing on learning technical vocabulary used in software development. He made a list of key programming terms and phrases, such as debugging, algorithm, source code, version control, and API integration. He also subscribed to coding forums and websites in English, where he could read articles, and tutorials to improve his technical vocabulary. To practice his writing skills, Michael started writing detailed documentation for his projects in English. He would explain each step of his process, describe the challenges he faced, and provide solutions in clear, concise language. By doing this regularly, Michael improved his ability to communicate his work to other developers and clients. In addition to writing, Michael practiced his speaking skills by participating in online coding discussions in English. He would join video calls with his team and explain his coding strategies or ask for help when facing a challenging issue. At first, he was nervous about speaking in English, but with practice, he became more confident and fluent in explaining his ideas. One day, Michael was working on a software project with a team of developers from different countries. They had a meeting to discuss the progress and address any issues. Michael was able to explain a coding problem in detail, and he used his newfound technical vocabulary to communicate the solution clearly. The team appreciated his input, and the project moved forward smoothly. Michael's ability to communicate in English helped his team work more efficiently and ensured that the project met its deadlines. Michael's story shows how improving your English in a technical field, such as software development, can help you collaborate more effectively with your team, communicate your ideas clearly, and contribute to the success of projects. Next, let's talk about Olivia, a nurse who works in a busy hospital. Olivia's job involves interacting with patients, doctors, and other medical staff. She works in a multicultural environment where she needs to communicate with people who speak different languages. Although Olivia was fluent in her native language, she realized that she needed to improve her English to better understand medical terms, provide clear explanations to patients, and follow instructions from doctors. Olivia decided to focus on learning medical vocabulary in English. She studied terms related to anatomy, medical procedures, medication names, and symptoms. She also practiced listening to medical podcasts and watching videos in English to improve her understanding of medical terminology and context. Olivia used flashcards to help her memorize terms and their meanings, and she reviewed them daily to reinforce her learning. In addition to learning medical terms, Olivia practiced speaking English with her colleagues. She would ask them about medical procedures or clarify instructions from doctors. Olivia also started explaining medical procedures to patients in English, using simple language to make sure they understood. She practiced being patient and clear in her explanations, making sure to avoid using complex medical jargon that could confuse patients. One day, Olivia was assigned to care for a patient who spoke only English. The patient was nervous about undergoing surgery and had many questions. Olivia was able to reassure the patient by explaining the procedure step by step in simple, clear English. She also explained the medication the patient would be given and answered any concerns the patient had about recovery. The patient felt comfortable and confident after the conversation, and the surgery went smoothly. Olivia's ability to communicate in English made a positive impact on the patient's experience and helped the hospital provide better care. Olivia's story shows how mastering English can be critical in fields like healthcare, where clear communication is essential for ensuring patient safety and providing quality care. By focusing on industry-specific vocabulary and practicing speaking with colleagues and patients, you can become more effective in your role and improve patient outcomes. Let's now turn our attention to Tom, a lawyer who specializes in international law. Tom's job requires him to negotiate contracts, draft legal documents, and represent clients in court. He often works with clients from different countries and needs to communicate complex legal concepts in clear, understandable English. At first, Tom found it challenging to explain legal terms to clients who weren't familiar with legal jargon. Tom realized that to be more effective in his job, he needed to improve his legal English. He focused on learning common legal terms, such as plaintiff, defendant, contractual obligations, liability, and intellectual property. Tom also read legal case studies and legal journals in English to stay updated on current legal practices and terminology. To practice his speaking skills, Tom would participate in mock trials and debates with his colleagues. He would practice explaining legal concepts in simple terms, making sure to avoid using complicated language that might confuse clients. Tom also started writing legal documents in English, focusing on clarity and precision. He worked on drafting contracts, memos, and legal opinions, paying close attention to the language used to ensure that it was clear and easy to understand. One day, Tom had to represent a client in court who spoke English as a second language. The case involved a complex business dispute, and Tom knew that he needed to explain the legal concepts in a way that the client could understand. During the court proceedings, Tom used simple language and provided clear explanations of the legal arguments. His client appreciated his clear communication, and the case was resolved successfully. Tom's story illustrates how mastering English can help you in the legal profession. By learning the vocabulary and language specific to your field, you can improve your ability to communicate with clients, draft legal documents, and present cases in court effectively. Finally, let's hear about James, a human resources manager who works for a multinational company. James is responsible for hiring new employees, conducting interviews, and managing employee relations. He often conducts interviews in English with candidates from different countries, and he needs to communicate the company's policies and values clearly. While James was comfortable with basic English, he wanted to improve his ability to conduct professional interviews and communicate more effectively with international candidates. James decided to focus on learning business-related vocabulary in English. He learned words and phrases commonly used in human resources, such as job description, performance review, employee benefits, onboarding, and training programs. He also practiced conducting mock interviews with his colleagues to get better at asking questions and evaluating candidates' responses in English. Over time, James became more confident in his ability to conduct interviews in English. One day, he had to interview a candidate from Brazil who spoke English as a second language. James made sure to speak clearly and slowly, asking simple questions and giving the candidate enough time to respond. By the end of the interview, James had gathered all the information he needed, and the candidate was offered the job. James felt proud of how smoothly the interview had gone, thanks to his improved English skills. James's story demonstrates how improving your English in the context of human resources can help you conduct more effective interviews, communicate company policies clearly, and make better hiring decisions.